Hello, Footballer Nation, and welcome back to the greatest rising podcast in football for your first ever episode in the offseason. What's going on, guys? I'm Carson, and I'm a Cardsaholic.
I'm Alex, and I'm a Billsaholic.
I'm Ian, and I'm a Bearsaholic.
We got a whole lot of stuff to get into because it's been a crazy offseason, but first, we gotta roll that intro. Hello, Footballer Nation, and welcome to Footballers Anonymous After Hours. Coming at you after a crazy start to our offseason. How are
Can't
we
say it's a crazy
doing?
start for a week anymore.
No,
It's
we
just-
can't.
It's been a couple weeks, but we're back.
We are
Better
so
than
back.
ever.
We're so back.
And we clearly still got it. You know, honestly, it's not written this way in our scripts, but I feel like the best way to start the episode is to just start off with, we asked you to ask us questions and we answered them.
Right. I
Right?
agree with that.
We have
Because-
so many questions this week.
We have so many questions, and a lot of them we can't answer right now. But there is one that we got that I think is really worth being our first. This question is from Honorary Footballer Anonymous Charlie, who is having the best and worst free agency. We'll tell you that later. And if held hostage until you were forced to switch teams, what team would you switch to free yourself? And
All right,
no.
that's
You cannot say your own team. You have to choose. This is not an option.
You
It's like a-
must choose. Trouble, Palpatine. I have an easy answer. I'm going with the Broncos.
I also have an easy answer. I'm going with the Ravens.
For me, it's the Eagles or the Falcons.
Valid.
I
sense
just
that
love the
Carson
Eagles.
wants Charlie's approval.
No, I've always kind of liked the.
The only reason I say the Falcons is because I love Julio Jones, but because
mean-
he's not there, I will go with the Eagles.
However, I will say after the draft, my opinion may change depending on where Colin Schlee is drafted.
Ooh. No, but he's going to Arizona, so it doesn't matter.
Right, of course. Someone could snag him. You never know.
Honestly, I could even say the Jets too. Reason why coming up.
Mm,
Jets. Oh, well,
you
you wouldn't have said that before this season,
it's
this
true.
upcoming season.
That's why I said reason why coming up.
Since I mentioned Colin Schlee, I figured now would be a great time to just go ahead and jump into kind of the extension of the fan-voted favorite segment of last year, Carson's College Knowledge. This one, officially named by me just now, Carson's Stock Watch. So,
Okay, I like that. I like that one.
I like that. I like that.
as you guys know, before free agency and all the craziness happened, we had the NFL Combine, okay? Whole lot of crazy things happened there. All college athletes who have declared for the NFL draft. So I'm going to jump into just a couple of the highlights. Actually, a lot of highlights. It's like a whole page of our script. So we're going to be spitballing them here. So both of the top quarterbacks at the Combine did not throw or do physical testing. And most of the other quarterback performances were very questionable, especially the throwing. Particularly Oregon's Dylan Gabriel and Ohio State's Will Howard, which were definitely two names I thought would hopefully go up in draft stock, but did not at all. Cam Ward interviewed incredibly well. Shedeur Sanders reportedly interviewed very poorly. It was said by one coach of one of the top 7 picking teams that he came off as brash and arrogant. But the media still loves him. And without testing him at all, they still have a lot of questions. Old Miss's Jackson Dart did actually test fairly well and may have proven himself to be a late to mid first round pick. And Cam Ward apparently has incredibly small hands at 9 inches, because that is a stat that really matters. People are
I've
really
never-
concerned that his hands are 9 inches. Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe's hand size somehow grew from the Senior Bowl to the Combine. It went from 8 3/4 inches to 9 3/8 inches. Don't know how that happened, but maybe Alex should look into it. He interviewed and threw actually pretty well, but he did not run despite claiming he could run a 4.3 on the 40-yard dash. He said he could, but didn't. So, I'll trust him, I guess. Oregon receiver Tez Johnson, Bo Nix's adopted brother, was the smallest player at the combine by weight. He's 5'10 and 154 pounds. He's about as small as Ian is right now. He's so small you can't even see him. He's the lightest prospect in the draft since 1999. He had a poor dash, but tested very well in other areas. Somehow clocked the fastest mile per hour time during wide receiver drills, even though his dash was so slow. He's being compared to receivers like Tank Dell, who are similarly sized and very injury prone. Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden was the fastest receiver at the combine, and he improved his projections by a lot to probably becoming a mid-first round pick. Arkansas defensive lineman Landon Jackson jumped 40.5 inches in the vertical, which was the best at his position. Already, he's had formal meetings with the Bills as he is projected to go late in the first round. Unfortunately, the Bills will most likely trade spot with the Chiefs so they can get him first. Penn State's Abdul Carter has suffered
Hey, Carson, I'm just going to interrupt you real quick.
Okay.
If I'm measuring my hand right, it's about 9 inches. It's from
You
thumbprint
measure it
to
that way?
pinky tip, right?
I have no idea.
It's from tip to tip. I think it is. And if so, 9 inches. So 9 inches, guys.
And if you're on the extreme sides of the scale, like Kenny Pickett, it'll be talked about over and over.
True.
Kenny Pickett had a hand size of 8.5.
It
I
should
very
also
much
it should
apologize.
also be noted, another quarterback who also has 9-inch hands is Joe Burrow. So, very important stat.
I very much apologize for that interruption. I was just very curious
No.
about my hands.
It's very okay. Moving on from hands, we're going to talk about feet now. So Penn State's Abdul Carter has suffered a stress reaction in his foot. He is still the number 1 prospect in the draft, but it does raise a lot of questions about the Titans' first pick. The running back class has proved to be incredibly deep, despite Genty not even testing. The shout out was Virginia Tech's Bashal Tutin. He was the shining running back at the combine, clocked the fastest 40 time with 4:32, posted a relative athletic score of a 9.37 out of 10. That puts him as the 53rd best running back athlete since 1987 to be tested on this scale, being measured up against over 1,900 other backs. College stats backed him with 1,159 yards and 15 touchdowns just in 2024. The deep running back class will see a revival of importance to the running back position in 2025, especially after the success of Saquon Barkley. And I would not be surprised if you see multiple running backs taken in the first round. Those are your highlights from the combine. Here's my little plug now. Starting on Sunday, you'll start seeing little shorts pop up on all our socials, which you should follow now. Just about, one about every team until we reach the episode where we release our full draft preview, where I'm going to give you a full mock draft. These two guys are going to review it, give their own thoughts. And then, it'll be fun. So you should definitely tune into that and all the other stuff we have planned for Footballers Anonymous after hours.
I want to give another shout out here as well, because you mentioned the school of Virginia Tech.
I did.
Shout out Virginia Tech legend Colin Schlee.
You do love him. Most glazed player for Footballers Anonymous. So, pretty high prospect there.
Very deserving award.
Very deserving award. Absolutely. So anyways, we have a lot of stuff to get into, so we're going to jump into that. But before we talk about the main point of this episode, there are just a couple of things that have happened over the offseason that we thought we would talk about. First, we got some head coaching stuff, if Alex wants to take that.
The Saints hired Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore to be their head coach. I know this happened a while ago, but this was right immediately after the Super Bowl. Just a short 2 days after, on the Tuesday Super Bowl win, where they absolutely decimated the Chiefs, I believe. I lied. It was Thursday. It was Thursday because we had our podcast go up on Wednesday after. It was Thursday. Either way, they got him real quick. They're talking about it like the weeks coming up to the Super Bowl. They got him. I think he's going to be a good hire. It's just a matter of if he can get the Saints in a good spot, because the Saints are a bit of a mess right now. The Saints hired former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley to be their defensive coordinator. On their Instagram post, I thought it was funny that they didn't even use his Chargers picture.
Yeah.
Because of how bad it was over there. Puka Nacua switched. This is not a coaching hire, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Puka Nacua, my favorite coach, switched to his old number. He's now number 12. That was what he wore at BYU, and this is what he is keeping it as. And under the coaches tab as well, Marvin Harrison Jr. jerseys are finally for sale. So I know Carson's very excited about that.
I'm totally gonna cop one, bro.
Don't
Very
worry.
very excited about that.
Y'all want the free agent and offseason news and grades.
Yes, we have several questions asking about grading different NFL teams' free agency and all their moves. So we have decided we put together a massive, it's really massive, this might take a while to get through, list of the most important moves that every team has made this offseason, and we have given each team an offseason grade, depending on what they've done so far. Now, this will be an active document that we will post, and as important things happen, we will update it, maybe update some of the grades until the draft, and then we'll have a separate draft grading system. But now that free agency is really starting to wind down, we figured this would be a good time to do it as our kickoff to Footballers Anonymous After Hours. So with that, we're going to let Ian kick us off with our first team.
Thank you, Carson. Yes, we are starting with the NFC North, and the first team we will be talking about in the North is going to be the Detroit Lions, who we graded as a B. Some notable moves: they released edge Zadarius Smith, they signed cornerback DJ Reed, and they re-signed linebacker Derek Barnes to a 3-year, $24 million deal.
Goal! The Vikings. They re-signed Aaron Jones to a 2-year, $20 million deal. They signed Javon Hargrave, defensive tackle, 2-year, $30 million deal. They agreed to terms with Harrison Smith. They got him back for another year. So he is not retiring. He's going to stick on the team. They re-signed cornerback Byron Murphy Jr. for a 3-year, $66 million deal. They traded for running back Jordan Mason from the 49ers. The 49ers losing another player. We'll get to that later. They signed a guard. Go to name Will Fries, 4-year, $88 million deal, and they signed defensive lineman Jonathan Allen, 3-year, $51 million deal. Minnesota! We gave him an A-.
All right, up next we got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. All right, they have been very inactive this whole offseason. They did re-sign cornerback Nate Hobbs, as well as kicker Brandon McManus. However, they have lost a couple big names, which, I mean, they're all over here. So we gave the Packers a C+.
Hey guys, Future Carson. There will be a couple Future Carsons, and it's really confusing because this is the last one I record before the episode goes live, but it's the first one you're seeing. So this time it is after recording our March Madness episode that will be coming out later today. You should watch. The Packers did sign wide receiver McCole Hardman. Doesn't change their grade, but it is very notable, so thought I'd mention.
Next up, to finish the NFC North, we've got yours truly, the Chicago Bears. We've had a lot of moves this offseason. Just going to fly through them real quick. We traded for guard Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. Huge. We traded for guard Jonah Jackson from the Rams. You mean Darnell left. Huge. We signed wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus on a 1-year deal. I think that's a great move for wide receiver 3. I think it's a great deep ball threat. I personally really like it. We signed edge rusher Dio Odeyingbo on a 3-year, $48 million deal. Huge signing as well. Love that. We signed center Drew Dahlman, 3-year, $42 million deal. Former Falcon. Huge deal. Love that one. We signed tight end Durham Smythe on a 1-year deal. Not mad about it. I think it's decent. We signed defensive tackle Grady Jarrett to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal. Huge. Huge. I loved that. Literally hours before we did that move, I told someone that we needed an interior defensive lineman. Huge. We re-signed long snapper Scott Daly to a 1-year deal. Great, but you'll never be Pat Scales. I miss you, Pat Scales. We re-signed running back Travis Homer on a 1-year, $2 million deal. Not mad about that. We extended cornerback Joshua Blackwell for 2 years. Huge. We extended linebacker Amen Ogbongbemiga for 2 years. Huge. And then we extended our safety Travarius Ward, I believe is a 1-year deal. We gave them an A, and the reason why I did not say A+ was simply because we lost both Jack Sanborn and Darrell Taylor, and those were some pretty big hits to our linebacker core. Other than that, it's been great. We've three-peated as offseason champs. That's another. Hey, Carson, that's another
That's
thing.
another one for the
That's
list.
three-peated before the Chiefs. So there you go.
I'm going to keep updating the list, by the way.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of optimism for the Bears coming up this season. I know I've said this the past 2 seasons, but this one is different. I've also said that the past 2 seasons, but this one really is. You can ask these guys. I've never been happier for a season, and I
Except the other
cannot
2
wait
seasons.
to go 7-10. So it's gonna be amazing. That's obviously a joke.
Right.
Um,
That's
bear
what
down,
we're-
baby. Also, Ben Johnson. Don't forget that. Bear down, baby.
This is true. We did not count head coaching hires in the grades, but that is a factor. Ben Johnson is very good for the Bears. Very good for the Bears.
It is an A+ in my heart. It's just because of losing Sanborn and Taylor that I had to bring it down to an A.
Okay. The NFC East, the beasts of the East, were the best division in football. I mean, I don't know if these free agency grades are gonna do y'all justice for that title. However, one team that did do pretty well in free agency is the Washington Commanders. I know Ian has a lot of optimism about this team, especially following the Bears. They had a great Hail Mary play, and they added Deebo Samuel to their wide receiver core to improve their Hail Mary odds when they play them next season in Washington. They traded for Deebo Samuel from the 49ers for a 5th rounder. They re-signed Bobby Wagner to a 1-year, $9.5 million deal. I like that for them. They released Jonathan Allen. They re-signed Zach Ertz. They traded for Laramie Tunsil from the Texans. They basically stole him. I don't know how they did that. I don't know what the Texans were doing there. They re-signed Marcus Mariota to a 1-year, $8 million deal. That's a really big move. If you know, you know. And they signed defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw to a 3-year, $45 million deal. They had a B+. They were the good grade.
Yeah, so up next we've got the Philadelphia Eagles. So to start off before free agency, they released cornerback Darius Slay. Huge. They extended running back Saquon Barkley. 2 years, $41.2 million. Totally should have been paid more, but also awesome that he's willing to stay for that much. He is a running back, I guess. Re-signed linebacker Zach Bond, 3 years, $51 million. And then free agency started, and they just blew everything up. They traded quarterback Kenny Pickett to the Browns for quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 5th round. Crazy. Traded away safety CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Texans in exchange for guard Kenyon Green. They signed running back AJ Dillon to a 1-year deal. They signed quarterback Adoree Jackson, and they have agreed to terms with right tackle Lane Johnson for a 1-year extension.
What is up, Footballer Nation? It's Carson from the future. I am editing our episode right now, and it was just announced like 15 minutes ago that Eagles defensive end Brandon Graham is retiring. So that is huge for their offseason and another hit to their defense.
Overall, we gave the Eagles a B- because while they have made some really good moves, they have also lost a whole ton of players, especially on their defense. And that is, you're going to be seeing, again, them all over this list. But they've been making some pretty good decisions, so we're giving them a B-.
And I will say, I love the AJ Dillon signing. I love AJ Dillon as a player. He's been on the Packers, so I've had to reduce my love for him. Now he's not a Packer, just be his backup. And I also do think the Adoree Jackson signing is huge as well. Next up,
Boom.
we have the Dallas Cowboys. Guard Zach Martin announced his retirement. I hope he has a good one. He is a great player. They did a big thing in restructuring both Dak and CD's contracts. They haven't done a lot with that yet, except for extending their defensive lineman, Oza Odighizuwa. It's my best attempt at that. Not going to try again. For a 4-year, $80 million deal. They signed running back Javonte Williams on a 1-year, $3 million deal. They re-signed UFL legend wide receiver and return specialist Cavante Turpin on a 3-year, $18 million deal. Highest paid special teams player, well deserved. We all watch the UFL and we love Cavante Turpin. And then they traded for Bills cornerback Khair Elam. We gave them a D+.
We love that y'all took Elam from us. He's a bit of a holder. He's also not good for our system. We're glad you gave us a 5th round pick for him. We didn't think we'd get that much.
Huh.
All right. And the last team in the NFC East, the best team for sure. The New York Giants. They signed Javon Holland, safety, to a 3-year, $45 million deal. They signed edge Chauncey Golston to a 3-year, $19.5 million deal, and they re-signed Darius Slayton to a 2-year, $36 million deal. Decent moves, but not a ton of moves, especially for a team that's completely rebuilding and gutting their team with a lot of cap space. We gave them a C.
Hey, whoa. Sorry, guys. Just have to interrupt the amazing football talk going on. That Alex guy is probably spitting some crazy knowledge right now, and that Carson probably is probably going or something crazy. Who knows, guys? Ha ha ha. Anyway, I just had to interrupt real quick. The question that's been nagging at me this entire episode. Carson, what is that shirt you're wearing?
Ian, that is a wonderful question. This is a personal, official Footballers Anonymous luxury tee from the Footballers Anonymous merch store that is launching right now at the time of this episode release. All you have to do is go to footballersanonymous-shop.fourthwall.com using the links in our descriptions, or you can just look it up yourself. If you look up Footballers Anonymous on Google, it does pop up because we're cool, and you can order all kinds of different items. We have almost every type of clothing you could ask for, all reasonably priced. We have a whole bunch of random stuff. There's a blanket, there's a bomber jacket, basically anything Footballers Anonymous you could want. We got it. We got socks, we got desk mats, phone cases, AirPod cases, coasters. I love coasters, guys. You can get them all for very reasonable prices. So if you have been looking for a way to support the podcast, this is how you do it. It is very affordable. It is quality content. We have done our research. We are partnering with all of the best companies. And you know what? If you're not happy with what you get, their return policy is also great. We have really done our research, and we are launching this thing way too early in our podcast careers, but you guys asked for it, so we are giving it to you. So please, if you want to support the podcast, go check out the merch store.
I'll tell you what, too. If you're watching the video form, I hope you enjoyed my awesome football talks in mute, because he talked about the muted football talks. I gave y'all fake football talking just so we could advertise our merch even better, because it's that awesome. Spitballing.
It's true.
Wow. Thank you so much, Carson, for that lovely ad read. Now, let's get back to the news.
All right, going ahead and jumping into, in my opinion, what may have been the most shaken up division so far this offseason. I mean, as if they weren't confusing enough during the regular season, things just got even weirder. We've got the NFC West. Okay, so starting off with LA Rams. They did re-sign quarterback Matthew Stafford. We were all sure he was going to go somewhere this time, but they did the same thing they do every year and signed him to another one-year deal. And then they signed wide receiver Devontae Adams. I made a typo in our notes and said that he got a 92-year deal, but he got a 2-year deal for $44 million. They signed offensive lineman Coleman Shelton. They signed linebacker Jake Sanborn. They re-signed quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo to a 1-year, $11 million deal. They released wide receiver Cooper Kupp. You'll be hearing more about him in just a second. They signed defensive lineman Poona Ford to a 3-year, $29.6 million deal, underpaid. And they re-signed tackle Alaric Jackson, 3-year, $57.65 million overpaid. They got sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. They got a B plus.
That's my fault. The Coleman Shelton signing is hilarious. It is so funny. You're gonna cry. Jack Sanborn, I missed you. Please come back to Chicago. LA doesn't deserve you. Next up, though, in the NFC West, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Their offensive tackle Jason Peters announced his retirement. They shocked the world and released wide receiver Tyler Lockett. Then DK Metcalf requested a trade, which happened. And then they traded away Geno Smith for a 2025 third rounder, which is actually pretty high. But then they were like, okay, and they extended linebacker Ernest Jones on a 3-year, $33 million deal. Then they signed quarterback Sam Darnold for a 3-year, $100 million deal. Then they signed DeMarcus Lawrence on a 3-year, $42 million deal. And then, because why not, they signed wide receiver Cooper Kupp. We gave them a B.
Well then, what a disaster class for the San Francisco 49ers in this free agency period. Besides all the players that they've traded that we'll be talking about in other bits and pieces throughout this, that like the Commanders with Deebo Samuel. They released Kyle Juszczyk, signed Kyle Juszczyk, They signed quarterback Mac Jones to a tier $7 million deal. That was one of their most impactful moves somehow. And they also released defensive end Leonard Floyd with the intention that and thought process that they were bringing in Joey Bosa, and then they didn't get Joey Bosa, so they just lost him.
Good one. I missed
It was pretty good. I thought it was pretty funny. I was really convinced that they were going to get Joey Bosa, and then something else happened instead.
Alex
gave him a
gaslit
D-.
us. Alex gaslit us and told us that Joey Bosa went to the 49ers, and we all believed him. And then, like 30 minutes later, everything came out saying where he did go, which we'll talk about later. And
It was not 30 minutes later. It was a good couple of hours later. Like, they had that, like, he was going to the Niners for, like, a couple hours. Also, granted, I was on a trip in Florida, so I was kind of getting, like, yeah, I would give him a D-.
all right, up next, we have my Arizona Cardinals, who were very busy during free agency. First off, we re-signed edge rusher Baron Browning. I love him. 2-year, $15 million deal. Love to see it. We re-signed our center, Evan Brown. Also love it. 2-year, $11.5 million deal. Re-signed offensive tackle Kelvin Beachum. Yes, please, for 1 year. And then we signed linebacker Josh Sweat to a 4-year, $76.4 million deal. Huge. Absolutely huge for the defense. I'll get into it more in a bit. But after that, we signed another linebacker, Akeem Davis Gaither, to a 2-year, $11 million deal. We re-signed wide receiver Zay Jones to a 1-year, $4.4 million deal. Signed quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Guys, keep in mind now with Mac Jones being on the Niners, we have the possibility for a Jacoby Brissett-Mac Jones battle. Just throwing that out there. We signed linebacker Michael Walker. We re-signed wide receiver Greg Dortch to a 1-year, $3.26 million deal. We re-signed defensive lineman LJ Collier. We signed Thanos defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson from the Browns. He's no Myles Garrett, but we take him. I am forgetting that we signed former Bear offensive lineman Jake Curran, so that kind of sucks. But we now have an amazing offensive line coach from Ohio State, so I think he can fix him. So that's gonna be great. And we signed wide receiver Simi Fecco to a 1-year deal. Overall, Cardinals A-. Love to see what they did. The strengthening the defense is exactly what they needed. I love the Jacoby Brissett signing, probably a lot more than I should, but we have just not had a competent backup for Kyler Murray, and I really think some quarterback competition is good. And also, I don't have to have a stroke every time Kyler Murray gets hurt, which is great. And Josh Sweat, I mean, he had more sacks than our entire defense last year. So just amazing. Giving it an A- because we are lacking the veteran wide receiver that we were hoping to sign, and there are still some on the market. So hopefully we sign one that's not Stephon Diggs, because I've seen way too much about that and I don't want.
Also, just for everyone, Carson has glazed Clayton Tune. He loved
I have
it when
not
he
glazed Clayton Tune.
He loved it when he came in for QB sneaks. He would praise Clayton Tune every time he came in for a QB sneak.
No, I thought it was funny.
Yes, you did.
I thought
you did.
No. The only game Clayton Tune has
You
ever
loved
started for us
You
was a
loved it.
shutout against the Browns.
Was in for tush pushes.
I thought it
Yes,
was
you did.
funny that he was our
No.
backup and had so many
Mhm.
touchdowns because of tush pushes. It doesn't mean I like
You
him.
know what else?
You
He
love
also
him for
loved
that touchdown.
He also loved Desmond Ritter when
I
he was
do
the
love
backup
Desmond
quarterback.
Ritter. I do love Desmond Ritter. I won't lie. I do love
You
Desmond
also-
Ritter.
you
I
also love
really
Josh
wanted
Dobbs.
Des to have the QB2 spot, and I was very upset when we didn't give it to him, but it's fine.
I will say though, I think he loves Clayton Tune more.
Okay.
Also, you
Just
loved
gonna-
Josh Dobbs when he was a Cardinal.
I did.
So
I did love Josh Dobbs.
Backup quarterback. You've loved all the ones you've recently had.
No, so first off, Clayton Tune is just a straight out lie. Josh Dobbs, I do really like Josh Dobbs. I was very frustrated when he was on the team, but I do really like him. And as a 49er, he did look pretty good. You are low-key tripping about Clayton Tune. I was excited for the game he started, and then we got shut out. And I think he completed like 20% of his passes. It was against the Browns, by the way. We got shut out by Deshaun Watson. I wanted to cry. Give me Trace McSorley. Oh, I actually like Trace McSorley.
Shout out Trace McSorley.
Give me Trace McSorley, bro. Give me Trace McSorley. But I'm very excited about Jacoby Brissett.
Trace McSorley almost beat Tom Brady that one time.
Never forget, legend Trace McSorley.
Actually,
What team was he
do
on?
forget that game, but
He was on the Arizona Cardinals.
yeah, that
Oh,
game.
it was the
That
Cardinals.
was the game where that was in Tom Brady's the season where they were really bad and they just won won the division because the division sucks. But like they were like 9-8 and they beat the Cardinals with Trace McSorley 19-16.
It took a game-winning field goal for Tom Brady to beat Trace McSorley.
That was the same season they lost like 45-7 to the Niners.
Now that we've been joining on with that for a while, we're going to do the final NFC division with the NFC South, starting with the Atlanta Falcons, which they released defensive tackle Grady Jarrett. Wonder where he went. Bear down. And then they signed Edge Leonard Floyd on a 1-year, $10 million deal. That's
Wonder
pretty
where
much
he
all they've
came from.
really done. So we gave them a C.
Panther, not a pink one, a Carolina one. They re-signed actually a Red Panther, the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. They also extended cornerback J.C. Horn. I love that move. 4-year, $100 million deal. Highest paid defensive back in NFL history.
Until like 6 days later, but
Yeah, someone else got more than him, but that's how it works in the NFL. They signed Trevon Moehrig, a safety, 3-year, $51 million deal. They signed running back Rico Dowdle to a 1-year, $6.25 million deal. They agreed and they got Adam Thielen back. I'm surprised he didn't retire, honestly, but they got him back.
Rico Dowdle felt really weird to me because I liked what he did on the Cowboys. I had him drafted on a fantasy team and he clutched up that one game against the Giants. It just felt like a weird landing spot to me for some reason since they already have Chuba Hubbard, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, nothing wrong with having 2 running backs.
B+ for the Panthers is very valid. Up next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Before free agency, they re-signed linebacker Levante David to a 1-year, $10 million deal. And then right at the beginning of free agency, they came out swinging, signing linebacker Hassan Reddick to a 1-year, $14 million deal. I was expecting more than that, to be honest. And then they re-signed wide receiver Chris Godwin to a 3-year, $66 million deal. And then after those first couple hours, they were pretty quiet during free agency. But overall, B+. All pretty good moves for them.
And to wrap up the NFC, we have the New Orleans Saints, who re-signed defensive end Chase Young on a 3-year, $51 million deal. They signed safety Justin Reed on a 3-year, $31.5 million deal. Pretty big move. Previously a Chief. Very good on the Chiefs. Also can be a kicker. And then they revised Cam Jordan's contract to have him return in 2025. We gave them a B.
The Saints love getting old Chiefs safeties. They got Tyrann Mathieu first, now they getting Justin Reed.
Tyrann Mathieu! Honey
Hopefully-
Badger! I love
Wow.
Tyrann Mathieu. Sorry. Anyways, go ahead. I had
As we move on to the AFC side of things, the AFC East will be the first division that we start with.
Some
We'll
could
get-
say the AFC side of the ball.
Yes.
Oh,
We got to get
brother.
the
Oh,
scrubs
brother.
out of the way.
The other side of the ball.
We have to get the
Anyways.
scrubs. We have to get the scrubs out of the way. So we'll start with the Patriots. They signed linebacker Harold Landry to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal. They signed cornerback Carlton Davis to a 3-year, $60 million deal. They signed defensive tackle Milton Williams to a $26 million deal. And they signed the GOAT, Mac Hollins, to a 2-year, $8.4 million deal. I am upset that he left for the Patriots of all teams. They get an A- because they signed Mac Hollins and that boosted their grade substantially.
No.
I feel like they did one more
Ruining
person.
his ownership and credibility by calling Mac Hollins the GOAT and praising him in any way.
Guys, the real reason that the Patriots got an A- is because they also signed a lot more people than the ones we listed. We
Right.
just listed the most important ones. They were the highest spenders in free agency, and they improved a lot. Mac Hollins signing a 2-year, $8.4 million deal should tell you how good he is.
Very good.
No, but anyways,
Keep in
it's okay.
It's also desperate for receivers. So
True, very true. They have to be because they signed Matt Collins. Up next we have the Miami Dolphins, who signed my dog, quarterback Zach Wilson, to a 1-year, deal. They also signed offensive lineman Larry Borum. And I'm also just now remembering they signed a really good punter, and I'm spacing his name. But they signed a punter. So overall, we gave the Dolphins a C because really they have not done very well in free agency. But Zach Wilson, so C.
Next up, we have the New York Jets, who are moving on from Aaron Rodgers, which is hilarious. And they released Devontae Adams, also hilarious, which you guys heard previously, signed with the Rams. But they signed quarterback Justin Fields on a 2-year, $40 million deal. He's going to be wearing number 7 as a Jet. Guys, watch out for the Jets. All right. Watch out for the Jets. Justin
Watch out
Fields
for when they
going
go
to have a
7-10.
statement year. He's going to go insane. Justin Fields, where do I even begin?
Hey, bro's got the college reunion going on up there.
Correct. They went from the New York Packers to the New York Buckeyes.
Garrett Wilson, Justin Field, back at it.
Guess who's back?
All right.
We gave the Jets a B. The B stands for I love you, Justin Fields. Statement.
Now that we got the bums out of the way,
He said it. He called Matt Collins a bum. He
No,
called
no,
Matt
no.
Collins a bum. He did it.
the
He
bum
called him.
teams,
No, he called it.
the bum
Jack,
teams
clip that. Clip that.
out of the way.
Yeah, clip them.
And we extended Khalil Shakir to a 4-year, $60 million deal. I like that. We extended Greg Rousseau to a 4-year, $80 million deal. I like that. I think he's gonna have a breakout year this season. We released Von Miller. I do like that. He's after his injury to his Achilles, he just hasn't been the same, and I think they both know that the contract just wasn't gonna make it work. We extended Josh Allen to a 6-year, $330 million deal. I love that. We signed Joshua Palmer to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Honestly, a pretty nice move. I
Love
think this would
that.
be good for a receiver core. I love that too. We signed defensive end Joey Bosa to a 1-year, $12.6 million deal. If he doesn't get injured, that's gonna be an incredible signing, and that might be enough to kind of like that's huge for a
If.
defensive line if he can stay healthy.
Very
That's
big
it.
if for him.
But
Good price though.
better to have him than Von Miller. We signed safety Derek Force to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. Honestly, I think he's a bit of a sleeper safety. I've seen him quite a bit. He's pretty good. We extended DeMar Hamlin to a 1-year, $2 million deal. Contrary to popular belief, he actually had a pretty good season this year comparatively to last season when it was kind of like, the incident happened, but like he was actually playing well this year. He was very serviceable. We extended Terrell Bernard to a 4-year deal. I love that. He was incredible for our defense in general. We re-signed Ty Johnson to a 2-year, $5 million deal. We signed Michael Holt to a 3-year, $21 million deal, and Larry Ogunjobi to a 1-year, $8.3 million deal. Both of them are suspended for PEDs, so that's not great. But we knew the Michael Holt thing. Apparently, the Bills didn't know the Larry Ogunjobi thing, which is a little ridiculous. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how an NFL team doesn't know that a player's getting suspended for PEDs, but I can talk about that more later. We signed Laviska Shenault. He's a wide receiver, kick returner. He's pretty decent from what people are saying. And the only reason we have an A- and 7A, in my opinion, is because we're waiting on the James Cook stuff.
I would also like to say I also love the Joshua Palmer signing. I was a big fan of him on the Chargers, and I think it's a great move for the Bills.
We
I think he's like the perfect guy for what we already have.
So fun fact so I was with Archibald the other day. And my little sister was playing Madden as the Chargers, and we saw Joshua Palmer and started glazing him so much because we both really like Joshua Palmer. And then like the next day free agency started and the Bills signed him, and we were just like it just happened. We were happy with
You know
him on the
what you just
Chargers.
said?
What?
You just said Archibald.
Dang it! Oh. I got back into the flow because I was with him.
For those who don't know, Charlie, honorary Footballers Anonymous member, Carson calls him Archibald, and he's been
There's a whole
trying
story.
for months not to say that on the podcast, but it is now out into the open.
I'm sorry, Charlie. Funny joke.
Carson from the future again, because we forgot to tell you the Bills' grade. They get an A-.
All right. Hey, you know what? Speaking of Charlie, we are getting into the next division, the AFC North, and we're going to start with the Baltimore Ravens. That worked way too well. So up first,
It's like it's scripted.
Footballers Anonymous scripted? No.
Stay tuned for our AI episode.
Our AI episode will happen. So first, the Ravens did sign, they extended left tackle Ronnie Staley, to a 3-year, $60 million deal. And then, I have a lot of thoughts about this. They signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to a 1-year, $6 million deal. So my first reaction to I'll get into that in a minute. And then they signed quarterback Cooper Rush. Real splash move there. So with going back to DeAndre Hopkins, my first reaction was, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the dumbest, the worst move ever. He's probably just going to be their next OBJ. He'll catch like 2 really good touchdowns, and that's it. But then I saw the price and I was like, man, I know I don't like DeAndre Hopkins can do better than a $6 million contract. 100% ring chasing. I mean, he went from the Chiefs to the Ravens. Like, he just wants a ring real bad. So I'm sure he took a pay cut for that.
For before this past season when he went to the Chiefs and all that, like I wouldn't blame him for ring chasing.
No.
But at the same time, he went to the Chiefs and then complained about the refs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like I've lost respect, and this is coming from a person
Me too.
that got Hail Murray'd on in 2020. I think
Yeah.
that complaining about the refs on the Chiefs thing was worse.
I mean, he didn't do it that much though. That was more the rest of the team. He said something, but I don't know. So
You're gonna say something about the refs now when they call it
yeah.
fair game.
But anyways, so the Ravens got a B- because they haven't done a whole ton, but they are getting better.
Next up on the list, we have the Cleveland Browns, who extended Myles Garrett after everyone thought he was going to leave. They gave him $40 million per year on a 4-year deal with $123 million guaranteed. It's crazy how he wanted out, but then they threw some money in his face and he was totally okay with staying. And then, he was hoping for a Super Bowl quarterback. So you know what they did? They traded for Eagles Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl quarterback right there. And that's pretty much all the Browns have really done. We gave them a C-.
Okay, I will say before we move on, throwing money at his face is a little more than what they did. They made him the most paid non-quarterback player in the NFL. Like it's like he wanted to leave, but that kind of money does talk. Further screwing themselves by doing that, but
it's ridiculous. I also wanted to add that they traded Dorian Thompson-Robinson to get Kenny Pickett, so they
5th.
And a 5th to get Kenny. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They traded for DK Metcalf. After DK, his 3 wants were that he wanted somewhere that wasn't cold. He wanted a stable quarterback situation, and then he wanted a contender. You can argue the contender thing, but he got like half of the 3 things he wanted. So that was pretty funny. The Steelers signed cornerback Darius Slay to a 1-year, $10 million deal, and they signed quarterback Mason Rudolph to a 2-year, $8 million deal. The red-nosed reindeer, is back in Pittsburgh after being in that dumpster fire that is Tennessee.
And we all know what happened last time. Maybe not last. We all know what happened one of the last times Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett played against each other.
Definitely not last time, but yeah.
Not last time, no, but one of the more recent times, I believe it was. And I really like the Darius Slay move and the DK Metcalf.
I do as well. This is a great price tag for Darius Slay as well. B- for the Steelers, very valid. And oh boy. Okay, so the last team in this division we've got to talk about are the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, the Bengals opened up their offseason by franchise tagging wide receiver T. Higgins, doomed from the start. Defensive end Sam Hubbard announced his retirement. That was a thing that happened kind of out of nowhere, but okay. They re-signed tight end Mike Gesicki, 3-year, $25.5 million deal. I do like that move, but then, both at the same time, the NFL announced that the Bengals were extending wide receiver Jamar Chase on a 4-year, $161 million deal, making him the most paid non-quarterback in the NFL now.
By a lot.
By a lot. I mean, we just talked about it being Myles Garrett with $123 million. $161. And then they extended wide receiver T. Higgins also for a 4-year deal. $115 million.
They gave Myles Garrett only $8 million more than T. Higgins received.
Higgins, Burrow, and Chase are now the most highly paid trio in the NFL, and the 3 of them alone are being paid more than the entire Bengals defense.
It's honestly crazy how much they're literally making themselves have the same problem, first of all. And I'm going to be completely honest here. I know T. Higgins is great.
That's insane.
I think the Higgins contract is more insane than the Chase contract.
I agree.
I think the Higgins contract would be 10 times better if it was on a team that wasn't the Bengals.
Mhm.
I think the contract itself isn't boiling down as much to the player as it is the overall scheme. I think if you made that deal and like with like say the Patriots, a team that needs a good receiver, I think that would be a great deal. I think he deserves
Yeah.
a lot of money. Carson, if you want to tell the grade real quick.
Yes, we gave the Bengals a C because they honestly made the tight end Mike Gesicki move was really good. Jamar Chase, that's too much money, but it's good that they got him. And the T Higgins, that's just a disaster. So they get a C.
And I just want to say, me personally, I think they deserve more of a DD plus because, looking at the grand scheme of things, pouring all of this money into your offense when your defense is as horrible as it was is just absurd to me. But we think C is a respectable. Looking at the individual moves, it's pretty good. Moving on, we have the AFC West, starting with a team that I have a lot of affinity for, the Los Angeles Chargers. They released defensive end Joey Bosa, who we know went to the Bills. They re-signed Khalil Mack. Really thought he was coming to the Bears, but he didn't. Obviously, he's an edge rusher. They re-signed him 1 year, $18 million. They signed running back Najee Harris on a 1 year, $9.25 million deal. They signed but brought back wide receiver Mike Williams on a 1 year, $6 million deal. They extended the quarterback Tyler Heineke for on a 1 year, $6.2 million deal. And they signed the offensive lineman Mekhi Becton from the Eagles. We gave them a B minus.
The Denver Broncos. Let's see what they actually did a pretty good job in free agency. They signed safety I'm gonna butcher it.
Talanoa Hufanga.
Talanoa Hufanga.
Hufanga.
Hufanga. To a 3-year, $45 million deal. I love that signing for them. They also signed linebacker Drake Greenlaw to a 3-year, $35 million deal. They also got Evan Engram, which I'm surprised he got released for some reason. I don't know what Jacksonville was doing there. We'll get to them later. But yeah, the Broncos, Evan Engram's gonna be good help for Bo Nix because they didn't really have a great tight end last year, and then the defense is getting even better when it was already one of the best in the league. So
I love all of these signings. I'm a big Evan Ingram fan. I
minus.
also love because I know there was like Ian and I would bring up last year or last season about how can't name a single player short of Cortland Sutton on like the Bengals roster or Bengals. Guys, I'm so tired. I've been at this so long. The Broncos roster. It's really great to see them bolstering the defense. Dre Greenlaw especially.
You definitely can. There's Nick Bolton. There's a good amount of players on that roster. Y'all just didn't know them.
Nick Bolton is a Chief.
I'm sorry, that's the wrong. And then they also have Zach Allen. Okay, whatever.
Moving on to our next team, in the AFC West, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, going into free agency, we knew the Las Vegas Raiders would have to make some very big move. And they've kind of done that. We have yet to see Kyler Murray, but they did trade for an NFC West quarterback. And we called that. I'm just going to say we called that. So first, they released quarterback Gardner Minshew. Minshew Mania is unfortunately over. They extended edge rusher Max Crosby to a 3-year, $106.5 million deal. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe before Myles Garrett, he was the most paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So Myles Garrett took that, and then that got taken away from him by Jamar Chase. So there were a lot of very highly paid players. And Max Crosby was also someone we all thought was going to lead the Raiders. He did not do that, unfortunately. Then they traded for quarterback Geno Smith, huge move. Signed running back Raheem Mostert for a 1-year, $2.1 million deal. That's a price. And they signed cornerback Eric Stokes. So we gave the Raiders a B minus. They definitely need to do more, but they're also, the moves they are making are the right moves.
Next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who franchise tagged guard Trey Smith. Travis Kelce announced he is not retiring. They traded away Joe Thuney to the Bears. They re-signed Hollywood Brown, Carson's favorite receiver of all time, on a $11 million deal. They re-signed linebacker Nick Bolton on a 3-year, $45 million deal. And they signed quarterback Gardner Minshew on a 1-year deal. And, they're doing this, but as we know, they'll beat the Bills in the playoffs. So not really much changes going on there.
Nick Bolton, not to be confused with Nick Bonito.
Yes. So Ian, would you like to tell us what grade they got now?
C+.
Also, I'm completely okay with them keeping Travis Kelce because he did like nothing last year.
Gray is low-key better. I'm gonna
He
say
is. Noah Gray
I'm
is
just saying.
better. I don't know.
Not better than prime Travis Kelce, but at the current moment, he's
Not
better.
worse. Travis Kelsey, put the fries in the bag.
What do we just put the fries in the bag?
Speaking of an entire division that just needs to put the fries in the bag, the AFC South. Starting off with the only team that has at least a little bit of competence, I guess, the Texans. They traded for Christian Kirk and got him for like basically nothing. I don't think he's worth basically nothing, but
No, he's not.
Jacksonville's just gonna do what Jacksonville's gonna do. I don't understand what the Jaguars are doing right now, but
I am beyond frustrated with that move, but talk about it when
y'all, you wanted him.
I did want him. I miss him.
Another receiver they signed Braxton Berrios to a 1 year, $2 million deal. Probably
Underrated.
a
Underrated.
very underrated. Yes. They traded for C.J. Gardner Johnson in exchange for Kenyon Green. They extended corner Derek Stingley Jr. to a 3 year, $90 million deal. He was the highest paid defensive back in the NFL with that deal. I don't know if I fully agree with highest paid defensive back in the NFL. He's very good, but
And fun
Yeah.
fact about that move has made it to where the 2019 LSU Tigers, specifically Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and Derek Stingley, now combined for a total of $666 million getting paid.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, deserves. It's just crazy money. And then they signed Darrell Taylor, and this is not listed here, but I also want to just shout out how weird it was that they just traded Laramie Tunsil for no reason. We
Mhm.
gave him a B minus. I'd probably give him a C plus personally, but we were bouncing kind of in the two areas there. I mean, they made some good moves, they made some bad moves, so kind of.
I
in
I will
the middle.
say,
What
I
do you
think Darrell Taylor is an amazing signing. I loved him. He was on the Bears last season. I'm very upset that he's gone, but
Listen, Christian Kirk, it's insane how they got him. I mean, even like I know he was doing the best, playing his best football in Arizona. And then he went to the Jags, but he was still having great games, and his production went down when they drafted Brian Thomas Jr., which I mean makes sense. But he's still a very solid wide receiver too. Very upset the Texans got him for as little as they did, especially being a division rival. It's just weird. I don't know. It's just weird. Anyways, moving on, we have the Indianapolis Colts, who signed safety Cam Bynum to a 4 year, $60 million deal. Signed running back Khalil Herbert. There we go. I got it, guys. Love Khalil Herbert, by the way.
love him.
Love him. Virginia Tech legend. Signed cornerback Javarius Ward to a 3 year, $60 million deal, and then signed quarterback Daniel Jones to a 1 year, $14 million deal. Not nearly as much as he was getting on the Giants, but he is in the quarterback competition in Indianapolis. Indiana Jones is there, and the Colts are earning themselves a B.
Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They planned to release Christian Kirk, then they traded Christian Kirk to the Texans, and then they released Evan Ingram. We gave them a C
Why did we give him a C?
That's a really good question.
because
I'd
we
like
were
to.
discussing when we were discussing all
Can we
the grades,
veto that?
when we were going
I
through
would like
each grade
to.
and looking at him, Alex had no objections to anything. He didn't say a word.
I would also like to veto this and lower it to a.
D.
I
D.
really want to say D.
I second.
All right, we have
I
changed it
concur.
live on the air for the viewers. We have.
The
If
Jacksonville
you're a Jaguars
Jaguars,
fan, we're sorry, but you kind of deserve this.
What are
You
the odds that a Jaguars fan is listening, though?
Well, to answer your question, Alex, we do have 110 subscribers on YouTube, and there are 32 NFL teams, which means it's very likely that we have at least one listener who is a Jaguar.
Not to mention all the people that listen to the podcast.
True, exactly. Anyways,
All right,
Alex.
this one we are not vetoing, I don't believe, but the
No.
Tennessee Titans. This is not going to have. They signed Xavier Woods. They signed Johnny Hecker, which is listed as Johnny Tecker right now.
Fun fact: Alex is the one that typed that.
I
Shout out
apparently
me
did.
not being the only one who made a script mistake.
Yeah, but you also like.
mean,
you
not
made an
script.
editing mistake. This is not scripted.
It is.
Um,
It is 1:41 in the morning, by the way, if you were curious.
They signed Kevin Zeitler. They signed Van Jefferson. They signed Jermont Jones. They signed Cody Barton. They signed tackle Dan Moore. And they signed quarterback Allen, number 17, Brandon Allen.
Yo, tough.
They wish they could have Josh Allen.
And just like
I'm not
that,
giving away Josh Allen.
we have what was the grade?
C plus.
And just like that, we have wrapped up our off-season free agency updates and gradings.
Shout out our 3 baddies of free agency.
We got some baddies up in here.
We got the Jacksonville Jaguars, we got the Dallas Cowboys, and the ultra baddie, the San Francisco 49ers. I know Carson's loving that.
No, I'm very upset, especially when they overpay Brock Purdy and get negative cap.
I also apologize. I said that in the wrong order. The Cowboys were listed as third, the Jaguars second, and the 49ers first due to our change on the air. The Cleveland Browns just dodged the baddies because of our change on the air. So shout out.
And who was number 1, if I may ask?
I don't know. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you for giving us
Yeah,
a
we'd like to
chance
thank
on
all our
this.
listeners, all our sponsors. We don't have sponsors. Hey, if you guys want someone to sponsor you, you know, our business email is you can find it pretty easily. We need money.
You know what else you can find pretty easily? Our merch.
What? Our merch! Friendly reminder that you can support Footballers Anonymous by visiting our merch store, footballersanonymous-shop.fourthwall.com, where you can pick up all the latest Footballers Anonymous merchandise. And I have heard a rumor that there may be personalized thank you messages for the first 5 orders. I know. So if you want one, you know where to go. Footballers Anonymous shop.fourthwall.com. Ian, these aren't written thank you messages. These are live video thank you messages.
Oh.
That's right. That will also be featured after the episodes of the podcast. So if you want, you know, your thank you message to be played, then you better be one of those first 5 orders.
We will also put the first 50 orders. The name of the person who ordered it will go in at the end of our video as well. Just the name, just text on screen.
The official Footballer Anonymous supporters.
We
right?
have some big personal projects. Keep an eye out for Alex's full schedule construction. That will come out soon.
Promise. It's like what?
Stay tuned for my helmet tier list. That'll happen maybe at some point for all you helmet nerds like me. And stay tuned for Carson's super big unannounced project that is in the works and will blow all of your minds.
You guys are not ready for this. I've been planning this
Yeah.
like since episode 1. It's been in the works since day 1. Okay, this project is going to be insane. You guys, you just keep listening. You'll hear more about it in the upcoming episodes. And you know, if you want, no, go ahead.
We make the best projects here at Footballers Anonymous because we value credibility and ownership.
We do.
Facts.
Make sure to stay tuned for later today, as of releasing this, when we release our Footballers Anonymous March Madness brackets, where 3 football fans try to compile their college knowledge to make 3 individual March Madness brackets and compete against each other. Gonna be pretty intense there. That will be releasing later today, as of Wednesday the 19th. And other than that, make sure to stay tuned for our episode next week. It's going to be our UFL kickoff episode. Gonna be huge. We're gonna reveal the teams that we're supporting and give you guys a breakdown if you aren't familiar with the UFL. We're going to make sure that by the end of that episode, you know enough and you are ready to fully enjoy spring football with us.
Also, shout out everyone that attended our live stream and got us to 100 subs so we could end the stream. And we ended it in, I think, it was
5 hours.
5 hours, yeah. It was impressive. We started at 54 subs, I believe. We got to 105 hours, so
Insane. Thank you guys very much.
And for some shameless comment plugging, comment down, you know, some of your thoughts about free agencies. Maybe tell us what your favorite team is, what you think about our grade. And also, if you're feeling risky, guess what UFL teams each of us will be supporting. If you get all 3 correct, you'll get some free merch.
True. You will get some
Also,
free merch if you get
you
all
could
3
also-
correct.
You could also ask us questions.
Send us your questions. We want to hear them. And also be sure to comment on our videos because starting next week, we will be getting the comment of the week going again with Alex. Shout out Dylan.
Love Dylan.
Speaking of which, Dylan, you'll find someone. Don't worry. You'll get there, Dylan. You won't be single forever, okay?
Also, just want to do one final shout. Do not worry. We have not forgotten about the How to NFL project where we describe the entire NFL for people who aren't familiar with it. We just haven't found the time yet. It will
We-
happen this offseason.
We have some plan in the
Some.
works,
In the works.
For
in the
a-
works.
a possible
For a possible
Footballers Anonymous in-person meeting,
It's
Football
possible.
Anonymous in-person meeting.
which we would obviously record our episode in
Which
person.
we would obviously record our episode in person.
And that would probably also be where we would work on
That
our
would probably also
how
where we
to
record the
football.
how to NFL football.
See, so we hope you enjoyed this normal off-season episode, because you won't have another normal off-season episode for another, what, 13 weeks? How long
Something
is
like
UFL?
It'll be
UFL
UFL.
is 12 weeks long. 12 weeks long. 12
And then-
weeks long.
Including postseason?
Yes.
So 12 weeks, and then we'll pretty much be jumping right into the draft after that. So there's going to be a lot of stuff, and we're going to be randomly pushing out our passion projects like March Madness, which you'll be able to watch later today. Just along the way, we'll make sure to announce those. Yeah. Anyways, with that, I think we're good to go. Thank you very much, Footballer Nation. Check out the merch store, Footballer Nation. Now, like and subscribe, Footballer Nation. Let's ride.